honors, and seventh overall pick in the MLB draft, and some big league time and some minor league time. We'll get into all that coming up. Brad Schultz, class of '07, a reliever for the Tigers, and got his bachelor of marketing degree from the Eberhard School of Business, and CEO of Beatbox Beverages. And I'm pumped to talk about that with Brad. Went on Shark Tank, and it's going to be a pretty cool story to hear. And Brett Sullivan, who most recently has been playing with the El Paso Chihuahuas and the San Diego Padres. Actually, kind of fun to run into him in El Paso a couple of times, and has had a great run so far in AAA, and then made his big league debut last season. So great to see you all. And I'll start with Dan, since he's the elder statesman here. First of all, Dan, how you doing?
Good, doing well. Glad to be on. Cool,
Awesome.
we're doing this.
Yeah. I think it's long past due. Take us back to 1998. I said you were the elder statesman. I feel old. I graduated college in '05, so I mean 98 is not too far off, and we're kind of in the same pocket of life. But take us back now to the late '90s Pacific, and what that was like playing baseball in the days before Klein Family Field.
Yeah, I mean, great time. Probably, one of the most enjoyable, 3 years of my life. In college, you grow up a lot, at that college level. Just learning who you are. Learning who you are, how you function in life. You're by yourself. You have great teammates, you have great coaches, you have great teachers, professors. People that you can lean on. But I mean, studying for homework, studying for tests, things like that. I think that's where you make those life decisions, on what kind of, man or woman you're going to be, going through those college ranks. University of the Pacific was a great school for me. It was still small enough, that you had those small classes, the small teachers, the class size was small. They knew you by name, rather than, just an ID number. So that was very, very cool, about having, just that small atmosphere, there at UOP.
So you're from Monterey. What I'd imagine it was kind of that way about UOP that drew you to the school with the small classes and just kind of the small student size.
Absolutely. Lived in Turlock when I attended UOP. It was 44 minutes from my parents' house to my dorm room, and then especially later on when you finally got the cool apartment. It was 44 minutes, door to door. So it was far enough away that you were away at college, but it was close enough that you could come home, and get free laundry done. Get a free meal, at home and stuff like that. So, being close to home was super awesome. Very thankful that it was close to home. So my parents and my sisters, could come up to games rather than being on the complete other side of the country. It would have been a lot harder for them, to make those games. So it was it was awesome that it was close. Like I said, far enough that you were away from home, that you were at college, but close enough, like I said, you can go home and enjoy the fun of being at home.
So it was Turlock then.
Yes, I was born in Monterey, and then we moved to Turlock when I was 8 years old. So basically, growing up was Turlock. Yes.
Okay. Uh, Tell us about the Big West in that time. I mean, that was like at the time right before Cal State Fullerton kind of went on their run. Obviously, Long Beach State's been a great program in that league for a long time. But what about playing in the Big West was special at that time?
You played all those power California schools, like you said, Cal State, Fullerton, Long Beach, Sac State, UNLV, Reno. What was the other one? USF, University of San Francisco. I mean, just like I said, those Southern California powerhouse teams. You walk into their stadiums and you're like, oh, this is big time Division I baseball. You had the scouts in the stands all the time. Scouting all those Southern California, baseball players. But yeah, I mean, just great atmospheres, in those Big West stadiums. And, there's nothing like California baseball, especially Southern California baseball. They breed baseball players down in Southern California. And, it was super cool to get in that little tiny bus that we had back in the day. 25 guys in a 24-man bus. We had guys doubled up sitting on the floor, for the 6-hour, 7-hour drive down there. But yeah, playing those Cal State Fullerton, there's still memories engraved in my mind, of walking onto that field like, whoa, this is a big time program, when you get down to those Southern California teams.
For sure. And I've been working in minor league baseball actually since 2005, and I've reflected on this over the past few years. The bus rides really have changed. Like the DNA of the bus rides over the years have changed. Like back in the day, and you can speak to this, but back in the day there was like a hierarchy, like who got to choose the movie to watch or who got to choose the music to listen to, and you had to talk to people. Like there were no smartphones. Like you talked to people or you slept. And now everybody's kind of in their own world when they're on a bus or even on a plane. But how special were those bus rides? And I feel like that's kind of an element of baseball that's like fallen by the wayside. Like that's the thing of the past now, where anyone who's done it is kind of considered a dinosaur, I think.
So you're calling me a dinosaur?
I mean, I know I'm with you, so it makes want to know us.
Yeah, those bus rides. Those are some of the best times. You got to talk to your teammates. You play cards. You do silly stuff on the bus. You wave at cars. When you go by a truck. You give them the horn pump. And bus rides now. Everyone's got the noise canceling headphones. The pods. Everyone's got the movies. Anything you can think of. It's right there at your fingertips. I don't even think we had VHS tapes on the little tiny UOP bus at the time. So you were forced to hang out with your teammates, talk. You tried to get some sleep, but there'd always be that one jokester, that would do something silly to you and wake you up, and then you had the whole bus laughing. Those jokes still go on the bus now. They're just a little more on YouTube and TikTok and Twitter getting those likes. So, but yeah, nowadays, it's the Wi-Fi on the bus. You got the AirPods and all that kind of stuff going on. So, the talking's probably a little less. It's more of a business now. Kind of every man for himself. I got to do the best. I got to do the best. I got to do the best. But there's still a lot of that team atmosphere, that team bonding that goes on the bus, and especially in the clubhouses too.
Totally. We'll circle back with Dan here in a little bit. We're gonna get more into our panel and kind of go through the years of Pacific baseball and place you in these time periods. And the next man up is Brad Schultz. How you doing, Brad?
Oh man, I'm doing great.
Awesome. Class of 2007, a reliever on that Pacific team, and a marketing degree from the Eberhart School of Business, which you put to very good use, I might say, in the class of 07.
Just a bit.
Co-founder, CEO of Beatbox Beverages, and I want to get into Beatbox in a little bit, but to follow up on Dan, and he placed us in 1998 at Pacific. This is more my time. I moved to Stockton in 2006, and so I was getting my first taste of Pacific and the Stockton community in 06, 07, 08. And that was right before Klein Family Field was finished, right? I remember guys playing at Banner Island Ballpark. And actually, I moved and worked for the Stockton Ports at the time, and we all, as front office, had to help work the concessions for those UOP games at Banner Island because they didn't have any staff. So those are kind of fond memories. I actually met my wife while UOP was playing there. We were both working the concession game day employee. But that had to be a unique time in the history of Pacific baseball, and that this new facility is opening, and there was this transition happening. But what was it like from your perspective?
Yeah, I'd say it probably was the biggest change from the whole program from when I came in to when I left. I came in like similar to Dan. I grew up in Southern California, and I Pacific wasn't even on my radar as a school, really. I didn't even know it much. And it was like a last thing. I was set to go around to UC Davis. And then the last minute got this opportunity, and I saw Big West D1, and I was like, holy shit, I got to go for this. And so without even visiting the school, without even being in Stockton ever, just I'm like, all right, University of Pacific, is it near the water or what? And so that was fun. And I think it really felt real. My first inning was against UCLA down at home, near home, and I was like, okay, this is why I made this move. So it was an incredible experience. I think a lot of what Dan said was spot on. Like some of the best times were, just the bus rides, the BP, just like the moments even outside of the games. And so thankful for the time here. I see some of my best friends still to this day. They're on this call, and I see Stolp and a bunch of you, Centenny. I see you down there, and some guys I played with. So, man, I've done a lot since then. We were just talking. I think it was 20 years ago when I came into UOP, which is wild, but I can definitely say that those are some of the best times. Still,
what was that first inning like for you at UCLA? Like, can you vividly remember?
Man, I think I shit myself walking out to the mound, but I believe there was a few walks and 3 strikes. I somehow, in true Brad fashion, which I've come out, I think bases were loaded, but no runs were scored.
That's kind of how baseball is played today. I feel like guys have a million walks and a million strikeouts.
Oh man, it's and the game, like obviously the game is still the game, but you watch it today and it, the pace and things are a lot different, but some of the stuff is still the same. So yeah, it was wild and a lot of other wild experiences along the way.
Do you like what they've done with the game as far as the pace of play and all that?
Watching it, yeah. I mean, I can't, I'm sure my folks and our games would take 3.5 hours out in that Stockton sun. And like, now you're finishing a game in under 2 hours. And so I don't know. As a pitcher, it's probably helpful, the shot clock, but I think they're keeping it interesting. And it's last year, I think it was a lot of fun. So I'm for it.
What was it like at Klein when it first opened? And I mean, that was at the time, and it still is, a state of the art ballpark. I would put it up against any facility in the WCC. But at the time, they had just opened that new ballpark in downtown where the Ports play, and then they opened Klein. But what was it like to play at Klein when it first opened?
Well, we were playing at Billy Hebert Field, I believe was the field that we played at first, and that thing looked like the Sandlot. So Klein, the step up to Klein was like big leagues already, or played down where the Ports, that field out there. But I think it was cool to just see like them engage downtown, the city. I think there was a hockey team that they brought, like just there was
Stockton
a lot of
Thunder
in the Stockton. Yeah, the Thunder. Thank you. It was cool to just see the whole city kind of get some new life into it. A lot of the teammates were born and raised in Stockton, so for them it was really cool to be going downtown and playing ball. So it was cool.
Yeah, I bet. We'll circle back with Brad here in a few, and I want to go now to the class of 2014 and Brett Sullivan. How you doing, Sully?
Good to see you guys.
Nice to see you, man. So you're a Stockton guy, Lincoln High grad. Take us into the Pacific baseball program in 2014 and what it was like, then 7 years removed from the time that Brad just talked about.
I went into Pacific. I feel like my freshman year was my sophomore year because my brother was there. So, all right. Sorry, the kids are crying.
Oh, my kids are doing the same out there.
So, I went in there. I went and visited a lot my senior year of high school. So the transition, and I was from Stockton, so it was very simple. But just going in there, knowing the guys on the team, made it a lot, more comfortable for myself. And it was a great experience there. Sprague told us he was going to run it pro style and get us ready, for the next level, and he did exactly that. And so very grateful for that. And yeah, it was a good 3 years there. You played great teams. So my first year was the Big West. You're getting your ass kicked, but you're facing the best arms, and then the WCC, which is a great conference as well. So playing great baseball. And yeah, it definitely helped transition into the pro ball.
did not surprise me to see you make your major league debut last season, and it was on April 18th. You hit your first major league home run last year. Who was it off of, and where was it? Like, tell us about that moment.
Oh, it was, the kid was struggling. All right, I was struggling, and I had faced this lefty. I had pinch hit the night before. Pretty decent at bat. 3-2, throws a left on left changeup, and struck out. And
And
I
where
remember
was this, by the way? What ballpark was this?
at Petco against
Petco.
and I remember telling myself I took the first pitch and it was right down the middle. And I was telling myself if I face him again, I'm, gonna go first pitch, or I'm looking to do damage first pitch. And the next day he comes in to face me first pitch, same, right down the middle fastball, and I got his ass.
Who was it?
Alex Young. He's good. He's really good. Really good pitcher.
Yeah.
So
Did you say against the Rays?
What was that?
Did you say it was against the Rays?
No, the Reds.
Oh, the Reds. Okay. I was gonna say it was against.
Very good.
Gotcha. I was gonna say if it was against the Rays, it was against the team that drafted you. What was it like to be drafted in that experience?
It was cool. It was a great. Well, the power was out at my house. Actually, I was at a coffee shop just waiting. I'd had no power. Me and my brother, we were expecting to get drafted, and
were you in Stockton?
No, we were in the Bay Area, where my parents were living. So we were just down at a coffee shop, no power. You're getting phone calls throughout the day, but nothing's happening or whatnot. And then my brother gets drafted first, and so we're going crazy for that. And the Rays had actually backtrack on the negotiation side. It just didn't work out for what I thought. And they said, good luck with the draft. And, that was that. And I said, all right. And then they call and say they drafted me. And so I'm like super, super excited. But like, it was just 10 minutes ago, they said they weren't. So it's a dream come true though. And it's, that's just the beginning. But it was a great time, especially with my brother.
Yeah, I can imagine with your brother too. I just love hearing everyone's draft story because there's so many at times, like with your case, the curveballs that are thrown in there where you don't think you're getting taken and then you get taken and the negotiation. Yeah. There's so much going on. April 30th, 2022. So I call games for the Sacramento River Cats now, but 2 years prior I'd called games for the Reno Aces. And so we were in El Paso. End of April 2022, you and I took a picture the next day in the clubhouse because I wanted to send it to C-Rod and say, hey, Pacific Baseball is representing here in El Paso. You had a walk-off single in the 9th inning off Mitchell Stumpo, who is nasty. Like he might make it as like a nobody. He's a nasty hander. That night you were 3 for 3, 2 walks, hit a home run off Trent Gilbert, who a few months earlier was the first Diamondback to pitch a no-hitter at Chase Field. And you were on fire that night. And I'm sitting up in the press box at El Paso thinking, Brett effing Sullivan from UOP. Like, it was a cool moment. Do you remember that game? Like, I know you played a lot of games, but, as a hitter, you tend to remember those games where you were dialed in. But I'll never forget watching that game and being just so thrilled for you that you were having the performance you were having.
Yeah, thanks for hyping me up. Yeah, I do remember that game. We were watching the film before the game, and they're saying this guy threw a no-hitter. And we're, of course, as hitters, we're talking shit and saying, after the first batter, he's not having a no-hitter. And we're just, oozing confidence and putting it out there that we're going to, hammer this guy. And, yeah, we hammered him. And I felt really good through he kind of, again, went to a sequence where he just kept going to a certain pitch. And as hitters, we got to recognize that. And so I just sat that pitch and then, the rest of the night was pretty good. But Stumpo, again, he's very nasty, but I had a little tip on him. So it was, and they intentionally walked the guy ahead of me. So that pissed me off.
That Reno team, by the way, was stacked. I mean, Alec Thomas and Corbin Carroll hadn't quite arrived yet, but that was that team won the PCL title that year, and you had an incredible and you played in the PCL championship game too, right? You were still with them when we were in Vegas.
Yeah,
Yeah,
against them. Who threw? Fat.
it was it was
Fought.
it was Fought. It
Fought.
was Brandon
Brandon
Fought.
fought. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and you actually had, didn't you have an RBI in that game too?
Yeah, baby. I got him a little double. You're making
Yeah,
me feel
I
good.
remember. I remember. I remember. I wasn't so happy about that one because I wanted a ring. That was a cool team. I wanted a ring, and I was like,
Yeah,
Sullivan's gonna.
that was a great team. I mean, half the guys went and helped them play in the World Series. So, I mean, that just
Yeah,
goes, and young guys can do it too. You go up there and contribute right away.
yeah. That was that World Series team basically.
Yeah.
I'm gonna circle back to Dan, and part of the reason I love baseball so much, and I do baseball and basketball, but there's such a richness with the stories of the people who came up and played baseball. And Dan, you had 186 minor league appearances. You had 124 major league appearances, but you played a ton in the minor leagues. You also played indie ball. You take us through the journey, what that was like. And I mean, the late 90s and into the 2000s, you're talking a different time than now when, guys stay at nice places and, they've kind of tried to spruce things up a little bit. But Dan, when you were going through that time, it was a little bit different. You take us through the professional ranks in the late 90s and early 2000s.
Yeah, I mean it was a wild time. Especially some of those bus rides from Wichita down to Texas. Those 8 hour, 9 hour, 12 hour bus rides. Where you're driving 4 or 5 hours. You stop at a gas station at 4 o'clock in the morning. You get a half a bucket of fried chicken. Then you get on the bus and you're eating fried chicken at 4, 5 o'clock in the morning. You're getting to the hotel at 1 o'clock, in the afternoon. You check into the hotel, you turn right back around. You're going to the field, right away, to get that early work in. There's hardly any breaks. After batting practice, you come in and you are eating a peanut butter and jelly, if that's even available in the clubhouse anymore. Because all the other pitchers and hitters, they're in there just crushing food. It was some long days, especially after those long bus rides. And if you're the starting pitcher, that next day after a 12-hour bus ride, you're hoping to make it through 4, possibly 5 quality innings. But nowadays, like you said, you have those nice charter buses. That the seats recline. If you have over a 10-hour bus ride, maybe, or something like that, you have a guaranteed next day off. To kind of rest and recuperate, which is really good for the players, so you can stay, at your best, throughout those times. But yeah, I mean, nothing like playing minor league baseball. The post game meals, or all the leftover hot dogs that they didn't sell at the concessions, or like a 5-hour-old pretzel with cheese that's not even melted anymore, if they're even lucky enough to give you cheese. But yeah, I mean, those are some of the best memories, that you make, sitting in your locker eating a hot dog that's been sitting out for, an hour and a half, that don't know if it's going to get you sick or not.
I can very much relate, having done 14 years in A-ball. I mean, that's pretty much the lifestyle. How did it help you grow as a human being? I reflect on my experience a lot, now I'm older and have kids, but how did those times help you grow and make you who you are now?
It made you tough. It made you tough. I mean, you're on a bus ride, you're sitting next to somebody in a seat right next to you. You've got to learn to adapt, to certain situations. I mean, if I've gotten on buses before, or buses now, if we're doing an outing with a church group or a school bus or something like that, with a high school baseball team, you get on the bus and you immediately fall asleep. I mean, that's just something you learn how to do, sleeping in weird positions, sleeping on the floor. I mean, we even had guys sleeping up on top of the luggage racks, where you put your luggage, up above the seats. We had guys that would climb in, and wiggle their way, in those racks up there, just to try to get a halfway good night's sleep. You learn how to budget money. You get, for a 5-day road trip or something like that, you may get $75, and you've got to make $75 last for those 5 days. go to, if there's a Walgreens across the street, you go get a package of donuts and an orange juice, rather than going out to a nice Perkins breakfast where you're spending 10, 15, $20. You're spending $4 because you've got to save, that money for your clubhouse dues. You've got to save your money for, those nice meals, after games, or, go out to get a really good lunch, So, I mean, there's life lessons you learn on the bus. There's life lessons you learn in the clubhouse. Most of all, I mean, those life lessons on the field, where you're tired from a 12-hour bus ride. How do I get through 105 pitches? How do I grind through, 4 at bats, to give my best as an athlete, to make my team successful. I mean, that's where you learn life is on the road and in the clubhouse.
When did you know? I mean, you played indie ball before your final years and then in your final years. When did you know that it was time to hang it up? You finished playing in the Atlantic League, and when did that moment click for you?
Our family moved to Lincoln in 2007. Played a bunch of years still back, past that 2007 mark. My last year in Southern Maryland, I think, was 2012. When I came home, the Lincoln Salt Dogs, which is an independent league team here in Lincoln, which I played for in 2007, they got rid of their manager. They got rid of their pitching coach. They kind of redid their whole staff. I was still really good friends with the general manager, all the front office people. So I called him up one day, the general manager, and said, "Hey, can I come meet you for coffee?" He's like, "Oh yeah, sure, definitely." So I met him, down in one of the local coffee shops and said, "Hey," he's like, I told him, I was like, "I see that, you're revamping your staff. You're getting a new staff." I was like, "I want to be the pitching coach of the Lincoln Salt Dogs." He's like, "Yep." He's like, "I knew that's what you were going to talk to me about." So I mean, it was time, 15 years of professional baseball, being away from my family, every summer it was a grind. It was hard. And I was very, very fortunate, that opportunity, came about, for me here in Lincoln. I was the pitching coach here for, I don't know, 6 or 7 years. So it worked out really, really well. Instead of being gone for 7 months out of the year, I was gone for 7 days on a road trip, and then I could come back home, sleep in my own bed and, mow my own lawn, on off days and stuff like that here at home. So very, very fortunate, that position came open, and they said, "Yeah, we'll take you for a little bit."
For sure. We just talked to Brett about his major league debut, but you had 124 major league appearances. Can you take us back to your debut and what you were feeling and what you remember about it, where it was?
Major league debut was against the Brewers. It was going to be the first game after the All-Star break. And as we were flying into Milwaukee the day before, they were building the new Brewer Stadium, and the crane fell, and it killed 3 people. So they canceled the next game. The pilot comes on, "Hey, your game is being delayed. There was a crane mishap there. A couple people died. So your game is going to be, rescheduled, for the next couple of days or whatnot." We had a day-night doubleheader. I think the first game was maybe an 11 o'clock game, maybe 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock. Kevin Apier started that game because he was the veteran guy. He wanted to pitch the early game so he could bolt back to the hotel. I didn't know any better, so I got on the bus at 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock in the morning, whatever it was, and my game started at 7 o'clock. So I was at the field from 10 o'clock in the morning to 7 o'clock at night, just waiting, itching, counting down those hours, counting down those minutes to my start. And it was a long, long day.
So this was at Old County Stadium in Milwaukee then?
Absolutely. Yep. The bullpens were out in right field. And as I get done, starting to, finish my pregame routine, all of a sudden the national anthem starts playing. And I'm like, "Oh, that's not good." So I was stuck out in the bullpen as a starting pitcher, waiting for that first inning, because you can't just cross the field. I think we were in the third base dugout, so we had to go across the field. I was stuck out in the right field bullpen before my start, And then, when we made our 3 outs or whatnot, it was my turn to pitch. I came running in from the right field bullpen as a starting pitcher. So that was a very odd feeling. I never miscalculated time again after that.
That is bizarre. Do you remember who the first batter you faced?
I believe it was Marquise Grissom.
Wow, a good one. It's a good one. It's a great story, Dan. What do you remember most about your time in the big leagues? Like, what did you take away from that? You had a lot of appearances, obviously, but what did you take away from it all?
I think just being out on the field, being a major league player, that effect, that role model, that you have, towards the fans. I always tried to interact with the fans, sign as many autographs as I could. There was a couple of times that a couple of the pitchers, we'd be out in the outfield and we're like, hey, let's give our gloves away today. And on the way in from batting practice to, the dugout, we would walk up to someone in the stands and say, hey, here you go. Here's my glove for the day. The friendships, that you make, with your teammates, you've got your teammates back all the time. Just putting on that uniform in the clubhouse, before the game, depending on the starting pitcher, the music that they listen to, sitting around, the tables after a game, eating those 5-course meals of the steak and the lobsters and, the pizzas. I mean, whatever you can think of that would be possible for dinner is in a major league clubhouse after the game. And that was, those are some of the biggest and most memories of, sitting there with a guy, with his shirt off, eating dinner in his, in his sliding shorts, and you're still full uniform, and, you got a veteran guy, half naked eating dinner with you. And you're like, all right, well, I guess I'm eating next to a half naked guy. But, those are the cool things that, you remember forever. And, you explain to people and they're like, what, you eat dinner with a naked guy? And you're like, yeah, that's just how it is.
Isn't it incredible, some of those spreads, like even, in AAA now, like the teams, the actual major league teams feed the guys, but then when you have a big leaguer come by, they're buying Outback or they're buying, Ruth's Chris for everybody. And it's like, there's more food than you could ever imagine. Like it's a different world, right?
No, it's unbelievable. Some of one of the favorite places for me to go to was Anaheim, because before batting practice, they would always come with In-N-Out burgers. The Tampa Bay Rays had the best grilled cheese sandwiches after batting practice. Minnesota always had steak and lobster. They had, 100, 200, lobster tails, and guys would just crush, lobster tails and, steak and, whatever you could think of. When we played the Yankees, they always had, the New York style pizzas, in the clubhouse. And it's wild how much, gourmet, food, like I said, I mean, anything you can think of would be on a spread table after a major league game.
I believe it. I believe it. Before we go to Brad, what's your favorite place you pitched in the big league?
In the big leagues, probably Yankee Stadium, just stepping onto the mound. One of the, all time great stadiums. Fenway was always fun, to go to. You got the Green Monster out there. Wrigley was one of my top places to pitch. Got my first major league win at Wrigley, so probably my top place to be. But I think out of all of the stadiums that I pitched at, probably Kansas City was probably, my top of all top stadiums. I mean, just the way that grounds crew kept that mound. I mean, they would come in and talk to you before the game, before your start. They'd come in the day before. Hey, how do you want the mound, tomorrow? Do you want it real wet? Do you want it soft? Do you want it sticky? How damp do you want it? Do you want me to do a cool design? Do you want me to water half the mound, do the front of the mound, the back of the mound? Do you want us to spray paint the rubber, with a glossy shine or a flat finish? I mean, it was a first class organization. Trevor Vance was unbelievable at his job out there in Kansas City.
Yeah, and they say the K is one of the underrated venues. I still haven't been to the K, but they say it's one of the underrated venues in the big leagues.
Beautiful, beautiful.
Brad, let's jump over to you. So, I mean, you crushed it in the business world with Beatbox Beverages. How did you come up with this concept? And first of all, for those who don't know, tell us about Beatbox and what exactly it is. Anyone who's been to the Orange and Black Ball might remember because always an auction item. But tell us about Beatbox.
Yeah, it's funny. We've been expanding a lot, and all these new stores popping up. I'm seeing Winco and Alpine Liquor and all S-Mart and all the places I used to shop. So no, I mean, I'll take you back. Like, I was always thinking about like business ideas. Even in college, I remember a freshman year started a clothing brand like in the dorms at Weems, if that dorm's still there. Just always thinking, this was even before Shark Tank was there, but just anytime me and my buddies, we'd always be kind of spitballing crazy business ideas, most of them stupid as hell. But, I'll take you to about 10 years out of college. We were always just, some of my buddies and I, just always the ones hosting parties, having that pregame moment, the party before you go out to the bars. We were getting into these music festivals too at the time. If any of you have ever been to a music festival, you know what to expect. So we just were out there one night and we were just like, this was the time like Four Locos were the real Four Locos, if you guys remember those days. Might be aging myself, but and we're just like, man, wine is so boring. Like, why has nobody made like a party Four Loco version of wine? And we were just like, oh, that's kind of a good idea. So we just kind of like spitball. We're like, yeah, coming up with names. We're like, oh, we could call a cab and Zinfandel and Sauvignon Blanc out. And so we just kept like making these jokes and people would laugh. And then we were like, had this idea to put it in the box, because boxes of wine were just like at every party too, because it's cheap, but nobody really liked the wine. So it's kind of a light bulb moment. One of my best friends and I we said, you know what, why don't we just fucking do this thing? And so had no idea about the alcohol industry at all, other than our days of drinking it, market research. And we just figured out how to start making it, made a prototype, filled up Crystal Light and vodka and food coloring, and took it out to parties, and people were like trying to buy it off of us out on the spot. So from there, just started telling more people the idea. It just started growing locally and very organically. It's kind of funny being on here talking about an alcohol company, because I remember doing a lot of laps in the outfield for the parties and alcohol that was consumed. So I'm sure, Chris, you don't like this is a post-graduation activity, but no, it's funny. And it's been an 11-year overnight success kind of thing. So it took forever to just kind of learn the industry, what's involved in it. And we almost went out of business about 5 or 6 times. So somehow survived long enough to figure it out. And then this last year, we surpassed 100 million in sales, which is pretty wild. And still I think we're to put a baseball analogy to it, like I think we're in the bottom of the 3rd inning with the brand. So a lot of fun though, and a lot of parallels to being a collegiate athlete, I think.
When was the moment you realized that you had something special? Like, was there an aha moment for you?
Oh man, there's been a lot of them. I would say up until Shark Tank, really, it was always still a like, is this a joke or is this real? And I think when Mark Cuban's there offering you $1 million for your idea for a third of it, I'm like, okay, he's way smarter than I am. And if he thinks that's worth $1 million, all right, this could be real. And so literally at the time, we were not paying ourselves even a salary. It was just something on the side we were doing. And that moment, it turned into, all right, this is your life.
What was it like to go on Shark Tank, and like specifically on the production side? Like, how did they prep you to go out? Because I think pretty much all of us have watched it, and it's like, man, I wonder what it's like to actually walk through that walkway and go into the Shark Tank. Like, take us behind the curtain on the production side.
It's pretty insane. It's on the show, you watch it and you watch like a nice edited 8-minute segment, right? And it looks so slick, and it's in there. In the reality, we were in there for almost 2 hours, and they were just drilling you like left and right, every way, just trying to figure who you are, who you know, what are you all about? Are they for real? Are they not? Do I want to work with these people? So the producers of the show really go out of their way to make the entrepreneurs like nervous, because I think that's what makes good TV. And you know, my buddy, my co-founder at the time, he played college football, and both of us left there, and we still to this day say like, it really is that feeling of like a really big game where you prep so much and you're just like, it's all you can think about for so long. And then you kind of black out during it. Like you have like moments. And then after you're just like, wow, what the fuck just was that? And so that's probably that's probably the closest analogy. And, you know, it's all real though. It's not scripted. It could have gone any way. And, you know, when you shake hands on the show, it's a handshake agreement. So then the due diligence starts after that. And a lot of the deals fall through because, you know, the entrepreneurs get nervous and they misstate their numbers or all different kinds of things. So fortunately, Mark's a man of his word, and we closed the deal a couple months later, and it's been an incredible mentor and partner and good dude.
Who was on the panel that day? Who were the sharks?
We had Mark, Barbara, Kevin, Lori, and Robert.
And were you like, did you like, it seemed like everyone wanted to target Cuban, right? Because he was like the cooler shark and owned a bad basketball team. But like, did you want a deal from him, or were you going in completely open-minded?
Oh yeah, we absolutely wanted Cuban. Like, I remember we'd watch every episode, you know, study them all, learn all the nuances, read Cuban's book. And so we would like stuff some of that stuff into our speech that would really target him. But, you know, they all ended up liking it. You know, they all got a little tipsy in there. And I think, you know, they all kind of wanted it. So Barbara kicked off the deal, and she's like, pretty sure we're all going to be making offers. And that was where we came up for air. We're like, okay, this is going to be good. And I think with Mark, it was just, you know, he really got, like, if you look at what he did with the Mavs, like, it wasn't just about the basketball, it was about the whole experience. And he's really like that story that Dan said about the fans. And like, he just understood, like, you know, it was bigger than just the liquid in the box. So.
What, we mentioned the Eberhard School, you know, you go on Shark Tank and maybe at that point for some businesses, they're a flash in the pan, but obviously you've sustained the success. Like what have you taken from your time at the Eberhard School, and how have you applied it to growing Beatbox and sustaining, you know, what you made, that big splash you made on Shark Tank?
Yeah. I mean, specific to Eberhard, I remember my first 2 years at UOP, I just could not stand class. I'm going to be super honest. Like, I was in, you know, taking a lot of general classes and like math and things that truly I just didn't care about. But I still remember that first business class and marketing class, like consumer behavior, like 101. And I was like, whoa, this is like a thing. Like, you can, you know, like market. I didn't even know if I knew the word marketing at the time. So, but I remember seeing, it was like a light like shine, and I was like, wow, this is like really cool. Like, and so that really helped. And then I think just the work ethic of like what it takes to be a college athlete and be in school. I think, like, I just remember being in those 8 a.m. classes and like already had hit the gym for like, been at 6 a.m. weights, and then like, and all these other kids are just like starting their class. And I'm like, you don't even know how much work just was put in the beginning. And I think that is a lot, like, seriously, that is business. Like, it's the more you put in, like, if you're willing to outwork, if you're willing to, like, it's really like a sport, and it's like a 24/7 sport. So I think that like with Beatbox, we were doing this all incremental to our 9-to-5 jobs. Like, this was all stuff we were doing on the side. And it's just like whatever you're willing to do. And if you're willing to go put in more work, like, you're going to get rewarded.
My introduction to the college athlete experience, when I first started doing Pacific basketball, we played at UCLA. It was a preseason NIT. And I remember we had one of those terrible, like 5:30 a.m. wheels up the next day. You know, we got back to Stockton. It was like 9:30 in the morning. We pulled into the lot. And I remember I was so tired, and I got to go home and take a nap. And there was Bob Thomason, as everyone's getting their luggage off the bus, all the athletes, and he's like, make sure you're at class, make sure you're at class, make sure you're at class. And I was like, man, like if these kids can persevere through having to go through, play UCLA the night before on national TV, wake up, at the crack the next day, and then have to get their bags and go to class and grind through a whole day and then have weights after. Like if you can get through that, you can pretty much succeed in life. Like, and I think you're speaking of that, right?
Absolutely. That's
yeah, it's pretty incredible. I'm gonna jump over to Brett. Brett, when did you know you wanted to go to Pacific? We mentioned, you're a Stockton guy. So when did you know that Pacific was the place you wanted to be?
Well, first I want to shout out Brad. That is a sick story, and that just shows you keep grinding, and I mean, he's working 9 to 5 and doing that. You keep grinding, you're gonna make it, and that's sick. And we need to get those in the clubhouse after wins.
Hey, I got you.
Yeah, we got to set that up. We got to get those on the clubhouse videos and get that out there.
Let's go. We're at Dodger Stadium too, so like you go to the games. We're at several stadiums, but we'll get down to Petco.
Yeah, we got to get it in Petco, and the boys will be drinking them. But
yeah, Brett, let's make sure we keep those over at Petco.
Yeah, that's at Petco. That's not at Pacific. That's at Petco, boys. But to answer your question, my brother, again, back to him, he got recruited by them, and I really wanted to play with him, and he was a huge role model for me, and as well as Coach Sprague. He told us, he's gonna run it like a pro style, and we're gonna come in and get an opportunity, and I think that's all you want. I think you just want an opportunity. You just want to be able to showcase your abilities, and you can live with whatever happens after that. But and that's what happened, and I really enjoyed it, and my brother kept me on track, and we both had a goal. We wanted to make it. We didn't want to just play college baseball. Like, we wanted to play college baseball to be a professional baseball player, and we just kept going, kept working, and a lot of credit to my brother and a lot of credit to Coach Sprague for getting us to where I'm at.
So I grew up in Worcester, Mass, and I have not gotten to go to a Cape Cod League game ever. I was growing up, it wasn't something we really did. And then, I work in baseball now, so it's impossible. But you just hear about how special it is to go play on the Cape. And yep. I'd imagine for a college baseball player, you get to go play on the Cape. That's kind of an aha moment where you're like, I can really make it. And I'm in an elite group of prospects. It's a tremendous wood bat league, and you played for the Bourne Braves. But what was that experience like for you playing on the Cape? And did you know at that point you were kind of on your way to be kind of being where you are now?
Well, first I found out about the Cape when I went and visited my cousin, fellow Stockton native Barry Enright, and he played there. And shout out Barry. Dude. And so I want to say like 10 or 11, and me and my brother are watching every game, and Buster Posey was there, bunch of these big leaguers, and at that time it seemed unrealistic. But I remember just in college they brought it up, and again, it's like it didn't feel real because it's from Stockton, Cape Cod, you just hear of all the big name schools. And when I eventually got to the Cape, it was a running joke when Pacific Baseball, but it was a running joke when they announced all our players. It was, Vanderbilt, Florida, Mississippi State, and then from Pacific, and everyone would joke from where. And but it goes to show you could be right in there with those dudes and be better than those dudes. I mean, just because they go there doesn't mean they're better than you. And so it facing those guys like, oh, this is a top guy from Florida or Vanderbilt, like, you just want to compete against them and see where you're at. And after that summer, I felt pretty good about it. And but I think that motivated me to work even more. You have a little success against those guys, you want to go even more. And so that was that moment.
Tell us about when they told you were getting the call to the big leagues. That's always a moment I'm fascinated by, and I ask everybody about it that I come across. Had that moment. What was that moment like for you?
It took a long time, 8 or 9 years in the minor leagues, but and you always want it earlier. But for myself, it happened at the best time. My son was in the locker room with me, and it was a firework night, and I just grabbed my son, and we were going to watch. in El Paso, and we were just going to watch the fireworks, and they said like team meeting or something. But like at that time I was with my son, so I really didn't hear like, hey, everyone's meeting. So I just kind of kept walking, and the assistant coach is like, hey, you got to go to the team meeting. So I put my son down, and he like goes to run out, and the guy grabs him and holds him, and we go into my locker. He starts crying. I get him an ice cream. He's just hammering this ice cream sitting on my lap, and they go into this speech. But for myself, I've heard this speech 100 times of, hey guys, going to the big leagues. It was never yourself. So it's just kind of just auto tone of like, hey guys, this guy's happening, and they say my name, and everyone's going crazy and clapping. And my son, he just lights up, and his ice cream goes everywhere, and he thought it was for himself, which it was, for my purpose, it was, but it was the best moment you can have. And, truly grateful for that.
And then the moment you arrive, I mean, the Padres are basically this all-star team, this super team, from the moment you arrive, like what's it like in the clubhouse? Like that's a pretty heady moment, I'd imagine, walking into the clubhouse and, seeing Juan Soto and Machado and those guys, but take us through that moment.
Yeah, it's you have spring training, so you get to know the guys. So it wasn't like too big of a shock of like going in there. They know you, you know them. But I think going in there knowing the games means something. And my locker at that time was Bogart, Soto, myself, and Hassan Kim, and you're like, shit, something doesn't add up. But it's you just take it, you take it in, and you have to be yourself though, but the biggest thing is you have to understand the respect of the older players, the respect of their routines, and you have to observe. I always say you have to have feel, and you just have to have feel of like, okay, when do I get here? I have to be here early if you're young. You're definitely not using the training room table, but you have to figure out, all of their schedule, and then you go around it out of respect and say like, hey, I'm gonna get my work in, but I respect, the older guys, they put in the time. And that's something I think that's fading away, but we had it. And so it's just, you're kind of just like at the beginning on eggshells, but you got to be yourself, and you're able to be yourself if you have the respect, and they'll respect you for that.
I know we got to start winding down, but I'm gonna get some final thoughts from each of you. First of all, Sully, while I have you here, do you like you kind of straddling two different eras of baseball? Like they've changed some of the rules since the time you started from now. Do you like where the game's going?
I'd say the two rules I can speak that I like would be the pitch clock. It is pretty good. It definitely speeds it up. I wish it was maybe 20 seconds all around instead of 20 and 12. And I think there is a thought process of pitcher needs to clear his mind and be like, hey, what are we going here? Be able to do that. But overall, pace of play is better. Guy on second in extra innings. I like that it's not a guy on second in the playoffs, because those games, it's a real game. Not saying that, but you have 162. So if we could speed up that a little bit, so we can, you're on the flight after that, and you're landing at 3, 4 a.m. So those would be the two I like. Some of the other stuff, I mean, it's still baseball, so let's cut the bullshit. But those are the two that I'm in favor for.
I'm here for that for sure. And while I have you, your favorite memory playing baseball at Pacific, if you could isolate one.
I'd say it's a lot of moments, but the best moment is standing in the box and seeing my brother at second base, and saying I'm going to get him in, and that's probably the coolest thing you take away is, you're in the box and you look right through the pitcher, and that's your bro out there. And so I would say that's probably, the best thing. No stats or any good games. It's just being able to see my brother out there and, playing with him.
That's awesome, man. Congrats on all the success you've had, and here's to a lot more in the big leagues.
Thank you. Yeah, we're just getting going.
Hell yeah. Brad, I'm going to go back to you. I'm going to pose the same question as I did to Sully. Like, do you like where the game is going now as someone who's played the game?
I think so. I mean, my buddy is he was the mental skills coach of the Astros for a while especially while they had the run. Nothing to do with the cheating scandal. But I think, when I was playing, that was just kind of this like woo-woo thing that Fullerton was doing. They were working with I forget what his name was. But like the mental side of the game was just kind of not really understood. I think you look at now, it's just like integrated into the game. And there's just so much more data and analytics, like all that stuff. I think I really like that because it's just human optimization. And then you get to see it, like you make these little tweaks and then you get feedback right away. So as with the rules in the big leagues, I don't know. I always feel like that's a business too. So sometimes, I don't know where it sits, but it's more fun to watch, like I said. So,
what about your favorite memory playing baseball at Pacific?
Man, there were a lot. I think the one that just comes back is that we were at it was a home game. We were playing against Irvine, and my catcher for all through high school, like grew up. We went to Calabasas High School. Like it was just always me and him on travel teams, all that stuff. Him being in the other opposite dugout, and I ended up getting my first win, the only win, but a win against his team, and just like it was just so surreal for us to just both be out of that world and into this like college world. So that one sticks out.
Awesome, man. You've had a lot more wins since that moment, I can say, in the business world. So congratulations, and we're so pumped for your success. And just get those beatbox out to everyone, okay?
Yeah, no one, not on the team here, but as soon as you're done, you come.
Send them to Petco at least. My God, the logical connection there. Thanks so much, Brad. And then Dan, do you like where the game's going? As someone who's a dinosaur like me, who's probably old school, and there's some of the things that now I dislike the runner at second base in extra innings. I really do. It's just not for me. At least make it, when you get to the 12th inning, maybe get that runner out there, at least in my mind, and let the game go the 10th and 11th. But do you like where the game is headed?
Yeah, extra innings, just flip a coin. Those concession hot dogs are getting really cold. No, I mean it's just I think it's just the evolution of the game. If you think back to, I wasn't around then. Well, maybe like the 40s and 50s. The game of baseball in the 40s and 50s, and all of a sudden you get to the 60s, and you guys, the bats might be a little different, or their cleats might be a little different. I think it's just the way that the game is evolving, the way that the players are built, the way the players' minds work. It's going in the right direction. Yeah, the pitch clock makes pitchers get up there and hit. The hitters got to get in the box right away. There's all these little minute things, but does it help the game? Does it hurt the game? I think that's just a personal opinion. On each and every level, there's going to be pros and cons. For every little tweak, that baseball has. But like I said, I think it's just the way that the game is evolving, the way that the fan base enjoys watching the game, the way the owners, own and run teams. That's just the way it goes, and you got to adapt to those rules. There's nothing you can do about it.
Yeah, for sure. What was your favorite memory at Pacific playing baseball?
Man, lots of them. Probably my top two. I guess I don't really have a top one. Striking 22 hitters out against Washington. In
22?
22, 8 and 2/3 innings, struck out 22. And then I guess I must have gotten to my pitch limit. I think I threw 161 pitches that inning. The guy that came in after me came in and pitched strike one, strike two, strike three, struck the guy out. So if I would have stayed in for that last hitter, I could have struck out 23. The next game, my mom we played UC Santa Barbara, the Gauchos down there. My mom got a big old pack of tortillas. So every strikeout that I had that next game, the guys in the dugout were taping up tortillas on the front of the dugout. Just kind of a little whim towards the other team. So it was they'll probably two biggest memories: striking out 22 in one game. Should have had 23. Coach Noble pulled me. Coach Noble. And then
How does he not
then
let
that
you
next
go after
game.
160?
What's that?
I said you go 160. You know, let's ride it out.
Right. I mean, yeah, 161 pitches that game. I could have thrown 164. I mean, 3 more pitches. I probably would have thrown 3 sliders. Probably not even any
Get out of
fastballs.
there.
Right. I mean, out of the 161 pitches, I probably threw 100 sliders and maybe 60 fastballs. But one of those games where you're locked in, don't even know what's going on. And then the game's over. You're like, whoa, 22. That was pretty cool. And then, like I said, the next game that I pitched, when my parents came up, my mom had a big old stack of tortillas. We played at UC Santa Barbara, and those guys were taping them up there, and it was pretty cool to see that.
I savor those stories now, man. Those are from a bygone era. Like no one's throwing 120 pitches now, let alone 160. That's just incredible. Thank you for sharing that. That's really cool. That's really cool. We're gonna hear from C-Rod here in a moment, and then Tim's gonna talk about some matching funds that we have for a fundraising ask. It's a really cool story. The matching funds were given in honor of Terry Maple, a baseball alum, by his teammates from the 1968 Pacific Hall of Fame. And Terry has a great story. He turned around the Atlanta Zoo from the mid-'80s to the early 2000s. Anyone that has young kids like me that's been to zoos know just how special they are. I didn't really know and understand until I had young kids, and we go to the Sac Zoo all the time. So it's a really cool story regarding Terry Maple that I think Tim's going to get into. But C-Rod, I'm going to give you the floor now. It's yours, and you can go ahead and take it.
First of all, let me throw a thank you out to these guys. Brad, Dan, Brett, appreciate the time that you guys are giving back, and the things you guys have done for Pacific. Your time here, your time after. Just really appreciate you guys, and it's one of those things. I know I never was there to coach you guys, but my biggest thing is just letting you guys understand that this is your home. You guys are more than welcome here anytime. Doors are open for you guys. I mean, anything you guys need, if there's anything I can do to help, hey, that's what I'm about. That's what I love. I love hearing these stories. Brett, I've been following you for a while. I was coaching in this local area when you were playing here, and just remember seeing you both play, you and your brother. And then, Dan and I actually played against each other a little bit. We actually talked a little bit beforehand, and your time in that Spokane is when we faced each other. And simple story is I just went back and I told our dugout, I'm like, hey, advanced scouting report, you can't hit his slider, so don't swing at it. And he's gonna throw it. Don't swing at it, because if you do, you're gonna miss. And I remember our first batter comes back and goes, you're right, you can't hit that slider. I'm like, I told you, don't even look at it. You see anything that spins differently than a fastball, don't swing, because you're not touching it. So just enjoyed watching your career and all those things. And just, the amount of knowledge that you guys gave back to a group of guys that are on this call is, I think it's invaluable. And just really appreciate you guys' time.
Thank you, C-Rod. Tim, do you want to take the reins here and talk about the matching funds in honor of Terry Maple?
Yeah, I'll do that. And I'd like to thank the 3 guys too. There's some great stories, and I love the fact that the guys on the team are getting to hear some of this stuff. So it's it's been good. But when we were doing these during COVID, we would after each one of them, we do a little fundraiser. We're going to do a little fundraiser appeal to get these guys off on the right foot this season. They're starting here next week. And Chris and I have talked, and we're going to run a 48-hour campaign, which is what we've done a lot of. And we're going to try and raise $15,000 tonight over these next couple of days for a high-speed camera that he said is going to be really beneficial to the program, and then also some nutritional support in terms of some stuff in the locker room. It won't be lobster and all that kind of stuff that you guys were talking about, but it'll be, some smoothies and, some other nutritional stuff. And as Zach mentioned in December, some people know who Terry Maple is, some don't. He was a former player on one of our best teams ever. and some of his teammates are on the call tonight. He passed away, unfortunately, in December, but Terry was very involved with the university, cared very much about the program, led a group of guys they're a very special group that keep up. I've been fortunate to be on some of their email chains. They have given back to the program a lot over the years. Most recently they raised money to redo some of the graphics in the locker room for Coach Stubbs, who was their coach, and everybody knows who Coach Stubbs is. So when we were talking about this, and we usually like to have some matching funds to encourage people to give some money, they have stepped up and they're going to provide $5,000 in matching funds tonight. So again, it's a $15,000 campaign. Once we get to $5,000, it'll automatically be matched by the $5,000 from several members that were on that team in honor of Terry, who was an amazing man, a good player, but wrote several books. And like Zach said, in terms of zoos and what he's done all over the country, people knew who Terry was, and he was very good at his craft. So Bree's going to send a note out in the chat. Well, there'll be a link that people can click on that, and we're also going to send out an email afterwards. We'll put it on social media, but for the next 48 hours, we'll kind of have that running as an online campaign, get these guys off on a good foot, and we're looking forward to a great season and I think things to come. I think everybody's, and I know the talking tonight kind of got me excited about baseball season. So, and thank you, Zach, for doing a great job of coordinating this talk tonight.
Of course. Thank you all for being here. C-Rod, have a great year, man. You and your guys go crush it in the WCC this year. And thanks everyone for coming out, and go Tigers. Appreciate you all.
Who's your first game against, C-Rod?
UNLV on the 16th.
Where at?
At home.
All right. Beat their ass.
Hey, we're actually for those who might be on this call who actually gave support, we actually broke ground. Brett, I know the scoreboard worked when you were here, and the video board went out, all that stuff. So actually currently right now the scoreboard a new board is being put up. I think it's a 32 by 19 video board with some advertisement signs and all that stuff. I've been posting some stuff up on it on social media, but that should be finished here. I'm hoping by the beginning of next week, and we'll have a full operational video board and all that stuff. It's going to be pretty slick.
I hope the boys put some lights out in it though against UNLV and start bopping some balls off that scoreboard.
That is the plan, sir. That is the plan.
But that's awesome. All right, I'll be following you guys.
I appreciate it. And hey, if you guys are ever around, more than welcome. Come and stop by campus, see the locker room, hang out, whatever you got to do.
I appreciate that.